All right. So imagine if you teach somebody how to speak French. You're teaching somebody the French language for 20 years. Every day, you're going over the details of the language, sentence structure, conjugating verbs. I mean, you are really teaching them how to speak fluid French over a 20-year period. The best teachers, instructors, visual aids, props, food, everything's provided. But after all that work that you put in, 20 years of time, 20 years of teaching, 20 years of money spent teaching someone French. After that 20 years, they don't know any French. They don't know nothing. Would you consider that a failure? You're damn right. You would consider that a failure after 20 years. Jermaine Dominique in here, Dominique in the morning on the all-new radioonfire.com. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. Clearly, we are going to be talking about Afghanistan and the debacle, the failure. And there are many failures, many fingers that can be pointed with regards to 20 years of the debacle of Afghanistan. 20 years. So some people are surprised. I'm not sure why. Because you knew this day was coming. The Afghanis, they knew this day was coming, right? You know, one day the boy is going to become a man. It usually takes about 20 years, right? But as the Afghan president fled the country, the government is crumbling. The U.S. military raced to evacuate diplomats and civilians from an increasingly panicked city. Now, everybody, thousands and thousands of people were all interpreters over these 20 years. Come on, get out of here. Everybody says they was an interpreter, right? Everybody's interpreter. Because the U.S. government wants to pull the troops out, which I think that they should, now people are fearing, the Afghanis are fearing retaliation from the Taliban. And they have every reason to fear that, right? The U.S. forces were propping them up for 20 years, and they just been kicking back. You can teach people a lot of stuff, but you can't teach people to have heart. You can't teach people to have balls. And clearly, these Afghanis didn't have that because the Taliban came through, boom. We taking back everything that we got back from 1996. So Taliban gets in control in 1996. And of course, 2001, the end of their reign. And they are back like they left their car keys. So the capital city falls. Easy. I mean, it's just like the Afghan soldiers, I mean, if you want to call them that, they didn't fight back. They didn't do nothing. They were just scared and shook, folded like a cheap chair. Fear, confusion, right? Fear and confusion take hold as the Taliban moves in. The government crumbles. Soldiers crumble. Everybody that was talking crazy and greasy to the Taliban, they want to get out of town. And what is so crazy to me, I hear so-called educated people on media outlets, online, wherever, talking about the Afghan people. Oh my God, how can we How can we turn our backs on our translators? Okay. Where's this energy for Americans? This country itself could use some of that energy. Some of these so-called educated people that have so much admiration and so much sympathy for the people of Afghanistan. No disrespect to the people of Afghanistan, but I'm just saying there's so much work that you can do here. We can find all this endless money, millions and millions and millions of dollars for 20 years. None of the politicians complain about the money that's spent over the 20-year period that it was poured down the drain in Afghanistan. But the Republicans are crying and complaining about money for infrastructure in this country. Explain that to me. Doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. But I guess if it doesn't make dollars, it does not make sense. And how many times have you heard that expression? So you have these politicians talking about you need to justify the pay-fors and the pay-fors and all this kind of stuff for things that are happening domestically in America, fixing up the roads and the bridges here. But we're dumping all this money in Afghanistan, and you got so-called educated people on mainstream media, on mainstream TV news shows talking about we should still stay and don't call it a forever war. And they want us to still stay. There's some folks in the government, military also, that think we should still be there wasting money because you clearly see 20 years of teaching, and these Afghan soldiers are nothing but paperweights. Americans leave, they fall. Why are we here? It doesn't matter. They stayed another 6 months, 5 months, 1 year. They're going to still be soft. Those soldiers don't want to fight. So why are we there? And they're going to say the mission was to stop this from being a safe haven. I thought we were supposed to be getting the people that did the terror attack, right? That's what I thought we were supposed to be doing. We cannot and should not be in this country when our country's messed up. I've seen people who were more angry about what happened in Afghanistan than they were about the hillbillies that ran in the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol. Right? That doesn't even make sense. More upset about the Afghanis and what they going through than you were about your own capital. Does not make sense. Does not make sense at all. Your man Dominic K in here, Dominic K in the morning on the all-new radioonfire.com. Of course, Dominic K in the morning is sponsored by Tasty Moscato. If you could pour sexy in a glass, this would be it. This smooth, seductive Moscato wine blended with vanilla takes your palate to a whole nother level of taste me. Unlike most, Tasty Moscato can be deliciously paired with a variety of meats, cheeses, veggies, as well as desserts. It's the sweet taste of luxury that you've been craving. Visit radiofire.com/tasty for more information. Also, Tasty Moscato on Facebook. Here on the program, we deliver the biggest political and trending news stories of the day with interviews and original reporting from Atlanta and Baltimore and the world. The show is fun, the show is upbeat, but I also got to expose what's really happening in the world. Radio Fire is Black Voices giving you the American story, and it is a hell of a story. New episodes drop Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., but I don't want you to miss any of our live broadcasts. In addition to our 8 a.m. program, we drop content throughout the day as news happens. Hit that notification bell so you get an alert whenever we go live. This is Diamond K in the morning on the all-new radioonfire.com. So we are talking about Afghanistan and the Taliban taking over as the government collapses, president flees, and folks in Washington placing blame. All of the administrations since 2001 have had a hand in this debacle. All of them have had a hand in the debacle. There's no way, under no circumstances, that this could ever be a smooth exit. Let me tell you why. Because whenever the Americans leave, the Afghanis that are going to stay behind, some of them are going to want to go and are not going to want to stay in Afghanistan the way that the Taliban is going to run it. So whenever the Americans left, there would have been a lot of folks trying to also leave. The U.S. is not moving the Afghan allies out fast enough, critics are saying. Afghan Americans angry over the Taliban victory, and they're protesting in Washington. Okay, the Taliban, at one time I think we had like 100,000 troops there. So these troops numbers have been cut down and cut down and cut down and cut down over time. But 20 years, I mean, we're supposed to be there 50 years, 100 years? Is that what's supposed to happen? The Taliban is going to take over the country whenever the Americans left. So that's just what it was, because you can clearly see the Afghan soldiers wasn't going to fight the Taliban. They just gave up without fighting. They pretty much took the city without bloodshed. So, I mean, they just laid down. That's not something that that's not the Americans' fault. The Afghanis did not step up and do their part. The whole exercise was about training these Afghanis so they can pick up the slack. So when we leave after 20 years, they can't pick up the slack. Not only could they not pick up the slack, I mean, ROTC could have held it down better than the Afghanis did, right? So the Taliban effectively sealed their control of Afghanistan over the weekend. Took the capital, president's gone, insurgents returned to power 2 decades after they were ousted. So you don't have a large American presence there, the Taliban's going to move in. It's just as simple as that. It's just as simple as that. So you've had Russian forces there. You've had all different forces there. Eventually, the people of that country, the Taliban is the strongest ones, they're going to take it back over. So you've had Trump. And I heard Mike Pompeo on Fox News talking greasy about how dare Joe Biden blame Trump for what's happening now, blaming that's not good leadership. All Trump did was complain about something that Obama did before him. I mean, the hypocrisy, the audacity of Mike Pompeo and Trump for that matter. Trump negotiated a crappy deal. Oh, how much times did he talk about crappy deals that Kerry did and Obama did with regards to different things? It's kind of laughable when you hear Mike Pompeo, who was at the table for this foolishness. They propped up the Taliban. They was selling a whole bill of goods like the Taliban was good. They were going to have the Taliban at Camp David on 9/11. You remember that? They were going to have that was just, that would have been a debacle. It didn't happen, thankfully, but they were talking about it. They propped up the Taliban. Made people think, oh yeah, they want peace. They're our partners, blah, 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 and negotiate this deal to get them out in May. And Biden pushed it back. And now these same people that were kissing Trump's butt about making the deal are now the same people that are coming down on President Biden for enforcing the deal. And he pushed it back sometime. Hypocrisy is all around us. So the Taliban has taken over again. It has become clear that Taliban fighters were entering the capital city. Thousands of Afghanis who sought refuge there are fleeing. And and everybody helped the soldiers, right? All these people helped the soldiers. whatever. That's just something that he's just saying. He's talking crazy. And you believe this? All right. Yeah. They have more interpreters than you've had soldiers in the damn countries. It's unfortunate that this fear and the confusion has taken hold of the city as the Taliban has moved in. But we have a lot of things that can be worked on in this country, that money could be better spent, because you can clearly see that our money was wasted on this whole exercise. And soldiers and generals, all what they want to do is fight. Like that's it's like baseball players that want to play ball, right? Soldiers want to fight, or the generals do. That's what they do. So any situation, we got to do this, we got to do that. For as much talk as there was about this not being like Vietnam, not being like Saigon, it was very similar. Very similar. A lot of photos and video coming out of Afghanistan, and it's not a good sight. It's unfortunate, but this is the end of a war, and you have refugees that want to leave, right? Everybody can't go, right? Everybody can't go. And just because they want to leave doesn't mean that they're going to leave or they can't or going to be permitted to leave. Residents confirmed that police had even abandoned many of their posts or changed into their civilian clothes. Now, the town is lawlessness has gone on, looting has gone on. It's crazy over there. And that is something that frequently happens when you have some regime change. And right now, what is happening is a regime change. President left the country, vice president, a former head of intelligence who has been fighting against the Taliban since the 90s, tweeted that he would not surrender. Yet the Afghan security forces seem to be melting away. Like, it's just, it is just amazing what is happening over there and why so many people are surprised. Like, I can't believe that this, America, how are we going to look? But I'm worried about the number of refugees, Afghan refugees, that are potentially going to be coming to this country. So that's going to be a whole thing. And the debacle is something that, better execution, because everything is execution, right? Everything is execution. How are you rolling out the departure? That was botched. Okay. There's no way around that. That was botched. And you've seen video. There's video of hundreds of people running alongside a U.S. Air Force transport plane as it moves down the runway of the international airport in Afghanistan. Just that video is just unbelievable. The body of an Afghan so desperate to escape the country hours after the capital fell to the Taliban was found in the landing gear of the American C-17 transport aircraft after it hastily took off from the airport. Body was in the aircraft's landing gear, and it has made it temporarily inoperable. Human body in there. I mean, that is just that is really, really sad stuff. I understand that. But we have sad stuff happening in this country. And I don't understand how we can move around the world telling other people how to move, how to live, how to roll when we have so much division, so many things that need to be worked on here in this country. So, the Pentagon has so far sent an additional 5,000 troops to help secure the airport. So thousands of American citizens, embassy staff, and vulnerable Afghans can safely leave the country. Officials expected that by yesterday, the U.S. would have 3,000 troops on the ground at the airport. The rest would fly in the coming days. So over this week, it's going to be more confusion. They have the airport kind of split up into two parts, and they got crazy wire fence on one side and civilians on the other side. And it has been a sight to see. And there's going to probably be more photos and more video footage of this debacle, of the desperation of folks. But I don't want us to lose sight that billions were spent on the Afghan army that ultimately benefited the Taliban. The weapons, they just given them weapons to the Taliban. We spent all this money. This is going to come back to haunt us. This is going to come back to bite us in the butt. Now, we should not have done this. Built and trained at a 2-decade cost of about $83 billion. $83 billion. And you have the Republicans crying and whining about us building up our bridges when they had no problem giving $83 billion in aid and weapons and training and all that kind of stuff to some Afghan security forces that collapsed quicker than a movie. A movie would have still been going on. And these Afghan soldiers, they trained for 2 decades, collapsed so quickly and so completely. In some cases, no shots even fired. Let's talk about that. That points to the fact that it was time for us to go. Somebody had to stop the bleeding. And when I hear and listen to people talking about, we should have stayed for what? So we should have stayed 40 years? So we spent, it is amazing. You man, Dominic K in here, Dominic K in the morning on the all new radioonfire.com. Dominic K in the morning is available on the WRF radio app. Simply download WRF radio in your app store. Leave me a comment. You can scroll your timeline, attend a Zoom meeting on mute, do some online shopping, send an email, all while listening to Diamond K in the morning. Hashtag Diamond K in the morning on the all new radioonfire.com. Of course, anywhere you get podcasts, just search Diamond K in the morning, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, youtube.com/DJ Diamond K. And of course, Diamond K in the morning sponsored by Flyers on Fire. If you need a flyer created, Flyers on Fire can design your quality digital flyer in 24 hours. Are you promoting something special on social media? Flyers on Fire can help brand your message with a quality flyer. Visit us on Instagram.com/flyersonfire. Now, why are folks acting surprised about what is happening in Afghanistan? Money can't buy will. Money can't buy heart. You cannot purchase leadership. And unfortunately, these guys and girls, these guys in Afghanistan did not have it. Now, does it take 20 years for us to see that? Of course, clearly it is clear and obvious. But what really is baffling to me is that the talk is not about the money wasted. The talk is not about the weapons and the equipment wasted. The talk is about the image of America leaving and the translators. I've never heard so much conversation about translators in my life. All right. Never heard about that. $83 billion invested in Afghan forces over 20 years is nearly double last year's budget for the entire U.S. Marine Corps and is slightly more than what Washington budgeted last year for food stamp assistance for about 40 million Americans. And the Republicans complain about that. Entitlements, but don't care anything about wasting this money in Afghanistan. Make this make sense. This does not make sense, people. Does not make sense. Get breaking news and adult conversations covering topics that are important to the Black culture. Visit radioonfire.com for our original radio, podcast, and TV programs. You want to support Don McKay in the Morning? Very easy to do that. I'm able to deliver our news and our views on Don McKay in the Morning because of our listeners, sponsors, and of course, your donations. Don McKay in the Morning is powered by the people, and we need your support. Visit radioonfire.com to make a donation. Join the VIP club. All of that. radioonfire.com. Of course, on social media, I am at The Don McKay Show, at Radio on Fire. Don McKay in the Morning, brought to you in part by jstoverbeauty.com. Ladies, as you say goodbye to summer and prepare for the fall, get all your must-have beauty products from jstoverbeauty.com. Also on Instagram at jstoverbeauty. Facebook, jstoverbeauty LLC. So what do they have at jstoverbeauty.com? A lot of beauty products, wigs, Indian hair extension, virgin hair extension, professional hair care products. Ladies, you know you need that. Edge control, flat iron mist, mink eyelashes, satin wig bags, wax sticks, lace concealer, lace tint, wig grips, headbands, so much more. jstoverbeauty.com. They have custom wig making services, wig and weave maintenance services. Ladies, you know you need this. You want to stay beautiful. You want that special touch, that professional touch. Visit jstoverbeauty.com. So we've talked about Afghanistan. We've talked about this costly 20-year failure. Costly 20-year failure. Why were we even there in the first place? And, you know, that is something that's going to be looked at and examined for many years to come. Many years to come. But one thing that we definitely have to talk about is President Biden's defiant Afghanistan response. He didn't back down. And, the images of the desperate Afghans clinging to the American airplane, after these photos began emerging yesterday morning, the president had conceded to aides that he had little choice but to interrupt his stay at Camp David, return to the White House, and let people know what was going on, what was his thoughts, all of that. And if you thought that he was going to back down about this, then you were wrong. Biden is somebody who has often talked about his disdain for this whole thing. His political allies had been, kind of pushing him to speak out on the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban. His top aides began publicly admitting they were caught off guard by the speed of which the Afghan military collapsed. Like it was quick, fast, and in a hurry. And what's ironic is that I heard Mike Pompeo talk about if Trump had still been there, this would have gone differently. No, it would not have. The Afghan soldiers would have still folded to the Taliban, whether Trump had been there, whether Bush had still been in office, whether President Obama was in office, or whether Joe Biden's in office. The Afghan soldiers were going to fall quickly regardless. Because, as we said, you can't teach heart. You can't teach bravery. They didn't have it. They did not want to fight. They did not want to fight, and they did not fight. These losses to the Taliban were bloodless. Shots weren't even fired. They just came in like, you know what it is. And they just like, okay, yeah. And so, it is, I don't know. I don't understand what is complicated about this. So over the weekend, President Biden remained on his little retreat. He received some briefings and some, phone calls and the such. Advisors let him know exactly what was going on, and he discussed when and how they were going to address the situation. So he returned to the White House yesterday, and many of his aides assumed that he would spend the night. Yet, as soon as Biden touched down in D.C., word went out that his stay at the White House was going to be short. He gave an 18-minute speech. Biden quickly bounced after that and rolled out. So, he has a very clear thought on this matter. And, I respect that. He did not change in what he thought. Those trails led an air of defiance, and that's pretty much hanging over the White House as of yesterday. But these remarkable images that we've been seeing coming from Afghanistan, which the president called gut-wrenching, stood as irrefutable evidence of failure. Now, if you want to say that it was failure in the way that we executed our exit from Afghanistan, Biden and his team definitely have to hold that L. Trump has to hold the L for his negotiation and his telegraphing of when we were leaving. He's got to hold that L. President Obama, some of the surges and different things that he did, he's got to hold an L. And George Bush has got to hold the biggest L for even bringing us there in the first place. So everybody has, there's enough L's to go around. Scenes in Afghanistan, from what I've seen, worse than Saigon, worse than Vietnam. We did all that fighting, and the result is the same as before we left. And we are 83 billion shorter. I don't know. I don't know. But Biden's defiant message in his speech reflected conversations he had with advisors over the last few days. Officials were aware the situation that ultimately unfolded was possible. The Taliban overwhelming the citizen government. And I mean, pretty much as soon as the U.S. forces left. But, you know, I don't understand how you can, in your mind, be surprised by this. Now, you may be surprised at some of the photos and some of the videos that we have seen and some of them that we're going to see. But the result was going to be the result. Biden's comments about how the war would end, including a rejection of comparisons to Saigon, him rejecting that's misguided. This is definitely this generation's Vietnam. The images in many instances are going to probably be worse. For the administration to say that it isn't going to be Saigon as we look at these photos, that maybe they're right because it's worse. I mean, it is worse. And you can try to spin it however you want to spin it. Now, I understand it's time for us to leave, but the way that we left, it could have been done. It could have been done better. A lot of unanswered questions. Biden has long exuded confidence in both his foreign policy and his political strategy. He's been in Washington for a long time. His aides say that while he welcomes views that differ from his own and he embraces debate, he is most likely to shut down a conversation if he feels like his knowledge of a situation, particularly in international affairs, is being questioned. And a lot of people do that. I'm sure that Trump did that. And I'm sure that President Obama did that. This is called being stubborn. Biden's definitely old enough and has been around long enough to have that stubbornness. He doubled down on a lot of this. The moment that he walked into the Oval Office about 7 months ago, Biden was determined to see that his presidency would do what his three predecessors did not do, and that was end America's longest war. So the top advisors that he surrounded himself with, who shared that core belief, which now raises questions among even some Democrats about whether their loyalty kept them from taking seriously the warnings about the consequences of a fast withdrawal. But my thing is that, and I keep saying this, the consequences would have happened regardless. Taliban would have taken over, and Afghan refugees and folks desperate to get out of there would have happened regardless, because that's just what it is. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, at The Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire. Biden doubles down. This is what he says had to happen. It's what it is. If you think otherwise, I definitely want to hear. I think it was time to go. 20 years is definitely enough time, especially when we got nothing out of it. And you can see from the results, nothing was coming out of this good for America, for anybody. Only people that benefited from this was the Taliban. But as I said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, at The Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire. Of course, I will be back here tomorrow, 8 a.m. or as news breaks. Also on Wednesday, the return new season of the Father and Son News Show that airs Wednesdays, 6 p.m. on radioonfire.com. I will be sitting down with my father talking about Afghanistan and other news stories. So we do that once a week on Wednesdays. My father and I sit down and talk news stories. So that is coming back, Father and Son News Show. You can check out episodes of that on radioonfire.com or on youtube.com/DJ Diamond K. Mondays, the RTV radio show with Angie Winder and Brother Nance, plus special guests having topic discussions that are important to Baltimore and beyond. So join us for that. You can always catch past episodes on Radio on Fire. Our fall lineup is building. The Baltimore Music Awards coming in November and Jingle Jam coming in December. A lot of exciting things happening here at radioonfire.com. I will be back tomorrow, Diamond K in the morning. Check me out on social media, y'all, at The Diamond K Show, at Radio on Fire.